If you have ever considered investing in property, this video is for you. In this video, I'll be sharing valuable insights, lessons learned, and tips that help me become a property investor from a first home buyer. So grab a coffee and let's dive in. If you like the content, I really appreciate if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it gives me a lot of motivation to create more such content. Now that we have got it out of the way, let's dive into the video. Now in the last video, I shared things that helped me get into my first home within 4 years in a new country. Now the first and foremost thing that we need to understand here is what is equity and how do we build equity. Now home equity is defined as the current value of your property, current market value of your property minus the current amount of the loan or the current amount of mortgage you have on that property. Now let's try and understand that through an example on my Excel sheet here. So I'll switch into my computer screen and I'll try and explain that as an example. Now let's look at the scenario one here. So let's say I bought a home. So let's say we bought a home. The purchase per amount for my first home was $500,000. I put a deposit of 15% on my purchase amount. So the 15% of deposit makes it 75,000 of deposit. Now the total mortgage amount, so I paid $75,000 as the deposit. The total mortgage amount then becomes 425,000. Now the equity in this case, this is just an initial example. If I paid 15% deposit, now the equity in this case is 15% as a start. We will then discuss the other scenarios on what are the other scenarios on how the equity is built or equity is grown. Now let's look at scenario 2 here. Let's say when you bought the house, you managed to score a deal and you managed to purchase the house below market price. And when you asked the bank told you that the market value of your property is valued, your property is valued at 550,000, whereas you managed to buy it for 500,000. So if your market value of your property was 550,000, straight away, without even paying anything more than the 15% you paid, if I calculated your equity in this case, so as I said, the market value, so equity is calculated as market value of your property against the total mortgage on your house. So in this case, my mortgage on my house will be 425,000, but my market value, let's say I bought under market price, so I straight away got an extra equity of 8% here, and my equity amount goes up from 75,000 to 50,000. So I got another 50 grand as an additional equity just because I managed to purchase below market price. Now let's talk about the third scenario here. Now let's say in 6 months time, the property market appreciated and the value of my house, market value of my house also appreciated. Or in the other case, let's say I did some renovations and added some value, I added some value to my property and I got a new valuation done on my property, and my property is now valued after 6 months. My property is now valued at 650,000. So in this case, when I now calculate my equity against my home loan, now I am not saying, so in 6 months I would have paid some interest, very little interest, but some interest. But let's say I didn't pay any interest, I didn't pay any of the principal amounts, sorry, and my mortgage amount is still 425,000, and I compare my equity, I calculate my equity against that, I have already made an equity of 225,000 now, which equals to 35% of my market value of my property. Now how does equity helps you in your investment journey? Now the purpose of equity is that once you know, in this case you've got an equity of 225,000. Now generally banks are required to keep 15 or 20%, depending on which bank you're dealing with or which mortgage broker you're dealing with. Banks require you to keep 20% of your equity against your first property. Now the remaining, now let's say in this case you have made an equity of 35%. That's not the, now this amount that you have, it's not sitting in your account, it's just a paper value, but you can utilize that paper value to buy to get another home loan approved from your bank. Now what I could do is, let's say bank requires me to keep 20% against my first home. So I still have, if I look at it, I still have 15% of equity, because I've in total I have 35% of equity. I still have 15% of spare equity which I could use against to get another home loan approved from a bank. So if I want to see, so the 20% spare equity equals to $97,500 in this case. Now if I wanted to calculate how much I can get from the bank based on this number, it's really easy to do that as well. Now let's say there are different rules depending on if you're intending to buy a brand new home in as your investment property, if you're intending to buy a brand new home, or you're intending to buy an existing property. There are different rules for both of those, which we will also cover in the coming videos. But to keep this video simple, let's take the scenario that you want to buy a home and bank requires another 20% equity for your next home. So you've already kept 20% for your first home. Now bank requires you to keep 20% for the next home so that it can lend you more money. Now let's say I don't have any other money or any other deposit amount that I want to put from my pocket in this case, and I want to utilize this 97,500 to become my deposit, and then I take now once you know about your equity and your budget for your investment property, the next thing is to decide on your goals with your investment property. Some people like to buy property for a shorter term, do renovations, do it up, and then flip the property for a profit. Some people on the other hand like to play the buy and hold game. Now in this case, where you keep the property as a rental investment, hold it for a longer term and let it appreciate over time. For me personally, I have always believed in the buy and hold game. However, both the strategies have their own pros and cons. Knowing your property goals will enable you to invest wisely and strategically. The next step is to finding the right fit for yourself. Now once you know your goals, it's now time to find the right investment property. Decide what areas you're aiming for. Also look for the upcoming new growth areas. Investing in rental properties with close amenities like train station, bus stop, grocery shops, or other amenities may give you an edge, as it is much easier to find tenants for such properties. Also, depending on your budget, you can also decide to search in metro cities or regional cities. Both have their own pros and cons. Investment properties in metro cities could be much more expensive compared to the ones in the regional cities. On the other hand, many people though prefer to live in metro cities due to more employment opportunities and everything easily accessible and things like that. The management cost is also much more affordable in metro cities compared to the regional cities. The next step is to also look for properties in regional areas. Sometimes buying properties in regional areas is much better in terms of positive cash flow. Properties in regional areas are often much cheaper than metro cities and are also able to give you a positive cash flow after deducting all the expenses like your insurance, your management fee, your rates, and everything else. Properties in metro cities are often expensive at the other hand, and thus are often negative cash flow properties. Also, finding tenants in regional cities is generally easier too, since there are not many properties available in regional cities. So there's much more demand than supply in regional cities. Also, buying in regional cities will give you the opportunity to buy homes with big sections even in reasonable prices, which is not possible in metro cities. So this will give you a potential to add another property, to subdivide your property in the future and add another home on the at the back or on the front in the future years. One of the drawback though of buying in regional properties is that the management cost can be higher in regional cities compared to metro cities. So these are some of the learnings that helped me build my property portfolio in New Zealand. It wasn't easy and I made a lot of mistakes during my journey. But at the same time, I enjoyed it too, and it has been a really rewarding experience. If you are thinking about investing in property, I encourage you to do your research, get educated, and take the first step. I hope you find this video helpful. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.